Hey, I am Riley Drongeson. I'm the hitting coordinator here at Optimum Athletes in Sacramento, California.
And I'm Sam Strosiak. I am a hitting data intern here at Optimum Athletes, and we're going to talk to you a little today about the hitting philosophy here at Optimum.
Going right into the hitting philosophy, I think it's incredibly important that people know exactly what we're about here. I think it's really easy for things to get lost in the shuffle. I think it's really, really important that we have a clear direction moving forward, and we know exactly what we're about here. So to kind of dictate to you guys, I think the first thing that our hitting philosophy is really about is there's a ton of variability. We're mixing in different angles for the machines. We're mixing different bats, different weights in. Whatever type of variable that we could throw at a guy, we're gonna try and throw it at him.
And we're never doing the same games, the same drills like 2 days in a row. We're always mixing it up, always trying to make guys more competitive with one another, and yeah.
Exactly. That being said, those variables are going to be at or above game speed. I've thought for a long time that it's pretty ridiculous that baseball is the only sport that I can think of that practices below game speed. The 45-mile-an-hour BP fastball right down the middle, the underhanded flips, the tee work. For a long time, it seemed pretty ridiculous to me, and I'm just learning from the really, really impressive hitting coaches that I've got to be around. Just learning that good BP happens at or above game speed. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, and it's like if you're going to go out and play a game, you want to have that preparation where you're practicing at game speed, because if you're practicing below game speed, you're going to get to the game and you're not going to be ready to perform. So that's why practicing at game speed or even above game speed is the best way to get yourself ready for that. And I think we do a great job of that here, making practices really more difficult than what the actual game is like. And sometimes hitters don't always like that, but because they don't see the same kind of success that they would if they were just practicing with soft toss or off a tee. So sometimes they can get frustrated with that. But for the most part, I feel like we really challenge hitters to grow and get better through game speed. Yeah.
Two things to add to that. One, that's one thing that's really important, is to make sure, just like we were talking about, it's important for the public to know what we're about. It's really important for our players to know exactly what we're about hitting wise. We need to be very upfront with them. Hey, you won't have nearly as much success as you have in the past, and that's okay. And then if we've clearly communicated our intention, what we're about, and the why behind it, then it's totally up to the players on whether or not they're going to buy into that. And more often than not, we see buy-in on the difficulty side of things. The other thing that I want to add to that is the most effective way to learn a new motor pattern is start with blocked practice. So we incorporate tee work into our movement prep more than anything. So tee work is not a drill. Tee work is a movement prep. Hey, let's see how you are moving today, and then introduce more variability to it. So we go from a blocked practice to a randomized practice, and that's where the variability comes in to things. As the baseball starts moving, the baseball changes weights, the bats start changing weights, the pitching machine angles start changing weights, the pitch descent angles start changing. And so by randomizing this practice as much as we possibly can, we're learning those new motor patterns at a much quicker rate, and we're retaining those motor patterns at a far more successful rate than we would if we just stuck with our typical block practice.
I think one of the more interesting things that we do is that we go for less swings, but we're looking for higher quality swings. So you may get tired swinging time after time. I know some guys go out and they take hundreds of swings in a day. We don't really believe in that. We think that shorter time with less swings but more high quality swings is in the end what's going to make your swing better. If you swing with a higher intent, you're going to end up doing that in the game rather than just taking that swing that you do hundreds of times when you go out. So in those 1 hour segment blocks that we come out, we emphasize the higher intent, the higher quality, and in turn that's going to make your swing faster because you're not getting tired and teaching your swing to be slow. So that's another thing we kind of value in our time here at Optimum.
Anyone who's read Talent Code knows that there's a difference between kind of eyewash practice and deep practice, where we're, to use a buzzword, where we're myelinating, where we're causing our motor pathways to move faster and making faster and faster connections. And that's typically, if I go and take 200 swings off the day, like, yeah, I worked more than somebody else who took 50 swings off a randomized machine, but did I actually accomplish more? So I think a lot of times what we're going for is not confusing. We're not confusing activity for achievement.
Right. I think the other thing we need to touch on too is our assessment process here at Optimum, because it's something that not a lot of facilities around here have the ability to do with the access to the technology and the resources that we have here. We start off with blast motion sensors, which measure all of your swing metrics, including like bat speed, like time to contact, on-plane efficiency, your attack angle, things like that. And then we have K-Vest, which measures your posture and your rotation and your sequencing throughout your swing. And then we have Hit Tracks, which a lot of the hitters have given feedback that they really enjoy, where you can visually see your hits going out. It gives you exit velocity and launch angle and distance, and those things really resonate with some of our hitters. And I think our hitting process and our hitting assessments have really set us apart, because there's not a whole lot of facilities that do that around the country, but even less so around these parts here in Sacramento. So
I think the hitting assessment does two things. One, it makes us not a cookie cutter approach.
Very individualized, yeah.
Yes, so each guy's going to have their own, to use a buzzword, each guy's going to have their own program,
right.
Which we'll dive into a little bit later. But so it individualizes things, and the other thing it does is it takes the guesswork out of things. It gives us hard data to look at, and I think a lot of the old heads, when they see numbers and they see data and they see launch angle and they see blast metrics, bat speed, all that stuff, I think a lot of times it causes like this gut reaction of like, ooh, numbers, like what happened to old coaching. And we want to make perfectly clear that everyone knows where we're at as far as we take these numbers, and what the numbers do for us is it takes the guesswork out. It gives us hard data in front of us, and that's where we start blending coaching into it, is what do we do with those numbers? We look at a K-Vest graph or something or other, and we see that a guy has slow hips, or we look at a guy's blast motion and we may think that his bat speed is good, but let's say it's registering under 60. What do we do with those numbers? And so any guy out there with blast motion and K-Vest can look at those numbers and say, oh, you have this. But that's where the art of coaching comes into it, is how do I help address those issues? And I think that's where Optimum is becoming really special, and using, Eugene Bleekerism, it's 108 performance is kind of like old school meets new school, which I like the thought of, is marrying the two, and hey, let's kind of marry data and the art of baseball that we all love so much. Why don't you go ahead and touch on kind of one of the keys of our hitting sessions, and that's just competition in general. You want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, so every day we have a different competition that we're doing, whether that's just a regular 2-inning demo game, or that's facing a pitcher from the major leagues, that certain style, like a Chris Sale or a Max Scherzer that's really offset. We just kind of have a different challenge every day, and that forces hitters to adapt and feel out their swings a little bit. But the competition part is really important here at Optimum, because when you get into a game, that's all it is competing one-on-one with the pitcher. So just competing with your fellow group mates that day is a big part of our philosophy here at Optimum.
I think another thing we do a really good job at is being able to handicap competitions for certain guys, because every once in a while we'll have a group where we have a 12-year-old in with a college guy. Well, how do we handicap that competition? Pretty simple. We either we're able to set a boost with Hit Tracks, which is really invaluable. So we're able to set a boost for the younger guy, or we're able to take 85% of their max exit velo. For the college guy, it might be 105, his max, and for the little guy, it might be 65. And we're able to take 85% of that, and we're able to handicap that competition. So the competition is still fierce between those guys. It gets loud over in the afternoons when guys are competing against each other, and we not only see better results and competition brings out the best in people. That's not just a saying; it really, really does. We also have a ton of fun while doing that. That's another thing is. I think kids have a tendency to get burned out pretty quick if baseball is not fun for them.
And I think that all the different drills that we do, it really keeps it nice and loose, and everybody's able to enjoy a different kind of competition every single day. So it's not very mundane coming in and hitting. And I think that's huge that we're able to be so creative with the ways that we implement our competitions.
Yep. A Kyle Bodie tweet. Player development is not sexy. And while I agree with that, it's monotonous, it's not super fun, but the results on field are incredibly fun, and that's winning, that's hitting the baseball harder, that's throwing the baseball harder. And so while it may get monotonous, we're trying to make it not as monotonous as possible. Going back and touching on something that we've kind of discussed so far is helping people.
Right.
Here at OA, we say that people are the product. And I think that's incredibly important is Sam will take a guy aside who's having a rough day, and he'll just go and he's not just the data guy here. He'll go and sit on a bench with him and, hey, what's going on, dude? How's school going? That sort of stuff. And so when we say people are the product, we truly, truly, truly do mean that. We're connecting with people. We can't make any swing changes until we get to know that person a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think that reaching them as a person, you gotta be able to do that if you want to get through and make decisions or swing adjustments for them. That's a huge part, and if they can't respect you, they won't respect your coaching and what you have to say. So I feel like being their bigger brother almost is probably really, really important to helping them progress in their baseball abilities as well.
Yep. And I think a lot of times data is perceived as just ones and zeros, and the data crowd is just, there's no coaching, there's no art to it. What happened to the old school ways? And like I said before, we really do try and blend the old school and the new school and just really continue the art of coaching by taking the guesswork out of things. And that kind of leads into our last point here is our goal is to build complete hitters, not swings, not metrics, hitters. And so by starting games next week, I don't know if you know this or not, but Optimum Athletes has 2 high school rosters that are going to start playing each other. So call it a bubble league, call it what you will, but we're gonna start playing games against each other next week. And by doing that, in the words of one of our employees, Craig Meredith, it kind of closes the development loop. So we can train in the facility all we want, and we can build this perfect swing. But if you don't know how to take that into a game and beat a pitcher one-on-one, then it means absolutely nothing. So do with that what you want.
Yeah, so getting into a competitive state of mind is probably also really, really important for these athletes. And I think we're going to be able to get our technology out there as well. We're going to have a hitting Rapsodo. We're going to be using the Blast on the hitters out there too. So we can make comparisons between what their swings look like in here and what they do out on the field. It's going to be really invaluable to have those technologies out there to kind of evaluate guys as they're actually competing one-on-one with everyone else out there. So I'm really looking forward to that and seeing what that kind of turns out to look like. And yeah, like you said, closing the loop is huge for rounding out the entire player. So really looking forward to that.
Seeing the numbers from it, it's going to be huge for us, but at the end of the day, it's still just a game, and they're hitters. They're not swings. They're not metrics. And like we said, just closing the development loop. I think we're out of time. I want to thank Lucas for having us on his podcast. He does a great job with all the social media relations and everything like that, and just kind of advertising to the world what Optimum Athletes has to offer. We know that we have a long way to go, but we think we're starting to do some really special things here, and we appreciate him having us on.
And if you're interested in what we have to offer, come check us out. If you have any questions, just reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to talk to you about it.